Who do you think is going to win the 2025 national championship? Now, I've asked you this question, but while I was in Charlotte for the AFCA coaches convention, I asked 25 coaches who they thought would win the national championship between number 1 Indiana and number 10 Miami. Let's talk about what they told me and just how many of them picked this or that. What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If this is your first time watching Adapt and Respond, thank you for joining us here. We talk college football year round. If you're into that, hit that subscribe button, like this video, answer the question in the comments below. What do you think about what these coaches had to tell me about who will win the national championship on Monday night? I was at Charlotte for the AFCAs, and I got to tell you, I had a great time. Coaches from across the sport, from Division III all the way up to Power 4, had made their way to Charlotte for the coach convention, where there were seminars, there were breakouts, there were exhibitors, and more importantly, it's the single largest space where you're going to find college football coaches all located at one time or another. And at this time, it was really hectic because many of them are still recruiting through the transfer portal, and being able to eavesdrop on some of those conversations was very enlightening. Maybe we'll talk about those, maybe we won't. Some of those were on the record, some of those were off, and the ones that are off will absolutely stay off. But some coaches were kind enough to talk to me anonymously, giving them some anonymity about what they had to say about who would win, because, well, you might be working for this guy or that guy. And others went on the record to tell me what they had to say. And I thought it was all very entertaining. And I thought it was all very informative. So I took this to my bosses at Fox, editors at Fox, and I said, hey, look, I had this in my notebook. What do you think? And they're like, absolutely, write that as soon as you can. So now it is up at foxsports.com, where you can read the entire story. And again, I encourage you to, because it's telling. It also gives us a window into this era of college football, just how these coaches are finding it difficult to navigate it, but also how Curt Cignetti has seemingly created a Godzilla in a sport that seems to spawn a kaiju from a crack in the earth every 5 years. It's really, really intoxicating what he's done, because remember, no team had lost as many football games as Indiana had before Curt Cignetti flipped that program in a matter of a year, not even a year, an offseason. Took them to the college football playoff, won 11 games, came back, and then has gone undefeated and can be the first team since Yale in 1894 to finish their season undefeated in 16-0. And they can do it not only over the dead body of number 10 Miami, but in Miami's house. Remember, Miami plays its home games at Hard Rock Stadium out there in Miami Gardens. Wouldn't that be one way to punctuate that you are Ricky Bobby and the main character, Curt Cignetti? Here's the deal. I piss excellence. And that's what it is. I'm the best there is. I piss excellence. If he said that following a national championship win, who's going to argue with him would be the first thing I got to say. But as I was going through this poll, I kept getting over and over again some insights. And I want to start with what I thought was the best quote, which is attributed to a Power 4 assistant coach, in which he said, "You show me a more disciplined team. What Cignetti is doing is what we all want. They're mean, they're disciplined, they're robots. Can I say murder robots? They're football murder bots." That's one Power 4 assistant coach. Again, in a season that has been filled with this and that, and guys entering the portal, exiting the portal, really difficult to build a roster. Cignetti's done it by adding veterans, guys that have played 3, 4, 5 years, guys that are much older, guys that have been great players on bad teams and are itching to win at a high level. Meanwhile, it's not as if the U ain't done nothing themselves. They have a defensive line that is really, really outstanding. And they have one of the most dynamic playmakers in the entire sport in Malachi Toney, and one of the toughest tailbacks in the sport in Mark Fletcher. Add to this, Carson Beck, when he's playing well, he's elite. And I thought that was worth mentioning, right? So as I'm going through the convention where you'll see everyone from, again, grad assistants at the Division III level, like from George Fox, and former Division I offensive coordinators, or like Philip Montgomery, just to name a guy I actually know, right? Like from before going to the AFCAs. It's enlightening to see what some of these guys have to say. But I thought this quote was also really good, attributed to a Power 4 assistant. And he said, he's going to pick Miami. Quote, because I saw that 1894 stat and I just don't want it to be Indiana. So good. Okay, right. Keep going down the line, right? A lot of folks already knew that Indiana was great. And then when they demolished Oregon 56-22, that kind of ratcheted up a notch. An FCS defense coordinator told me the Indiana quarterback feels it and then makes the right decision all the doggone time. And he said it with such frustration, as if to say, you can't really put a defensive play on the field that is going to take away a quarterback who makes the right decision all the time. Defenses are designed to take advantage of mistakes, either mistakes by blocking schemes, by wide receivers, and mostly by quarterbacks, right? It's the axiom is true in baseball. Good pitching beats good hitting every single time because batters hit pitchers' mistakes. It's true. If you got a perfect pitcher, nobody's going to hit him because he hits all his spots and he knows exactly where he's going to go with the ball. Another Division II position coach, Jamal Morrow at Central Missouri, he actually gave me this quote. He said, Miami's defensive line looks like what everyone says they are. And he says, but Carson Beck might have to play the game of his life on offense, which feels very much what it is, right? The game is not going to be decided by Miami's defensive line getting home. And they might. I mean, they might get home a couple, 3-4 times. But it will be Carson Beck having to play better football than he has played most of the college football playoff. Like he played a great second half against Ole Miss. He's going to have to play a whole football game like that against this Indiana defense that has been great. Brian Haynes has those boys flying around. Offensive line coach at Shorter, Division II school in Alabama, Keith Otis, he had this to tell me. He said, their O-line is as fundamentally sound and well-coached as any I've seen, and Fernando Mendoza puts that ball right where it's supposed to be. Again, a man who is marveling at the execution of the offensive line. They hold their blocks, sustain their blocks, and the running backs get to the second level and do some of that running back stuff. And then Fernando Mendoza, again, being great. Heisman winner, the 4th consecutive transfer quarterback to win the Stiff Arm Trophy in the 7th in 9 years, just to show you how important it is to actually get that right in the transfer portal. And the attitude that many have taken is the one that, we can do it because Curt Cignetti has done it in this transient nature of the sport where we know it's not going to be regulated in the short term. The attitude is simply, okay, how do we win right now, knowing how volatile it is? And everybody looks at Curt Cignetti and says, okay, there's the blueprint. And I think that in and of itself tells you everything you should know. So you tell me, what do you think about what these 25 coaches had to say, as now that I get to the part where I tell you just how they voted? 22 of the 25 coaches that I polled picked Indiana. Just 3 picked Miami.